So, you're probably going to relate to this. I was chatting with a client a few weeks ago, and he said, the rate on my mortgage has just skyrocketed from 2% to 4.5%. I had honestly never really thought about overpaying my mortgage before because, prior to 2022, the rate was so incredibly low that it felt almost free. And then, when interest rates started climbing, it actually was free for a while because I was earning more interest on my cash in the bank than what I was paying out on my mortgage. But now I'm paying 4.5%. Suddenly, overpaying is looking pretty tempting, but then I have to ask myself, could I still be putting that money to work somewhere else? As someone who talks about money all the time, I have had this exact conversation, probably hundreds of times over the past 18 months, and what I've realized is that very few people truly grasp the mechanics of this decision, and it's an important one, which isn't too surprising, honestly, because at least from what I've seen, a lot of these nuances just aren't being discussed. Look at one end of the spectrum. Some folks want to wipe out their mortgages as quickly as humanly possible, which is an admirable goal. For most people, being completely debt-free is an incredible feeling, and very few ever regret it. But I often find that these same people rarely stop to think about how much more financially secure they might have been, or how much earlier they could have retired if they had taken a different route. Then, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have people who assume that just because the stock market has historically delivered average annual returns of around 10%, they are automatically better off investing that extra money. But they forget that very few everyday investors actually see those exact returns, and there is absolutely no guarantee that the market will keep doing that in the future. For the vast majority of people, most of the time, aggressively paying down debt is the safest, most logical option. But it is not the right choice for everyone. There are genuinely good reasons to sit anywhere along this spectrum. You just have to figure out what works for you. And you can only do that if you fully understand the arguments for and against, and how the financial landscape today is completely different from what we've seen in the past. Most of us already get the benefits of being debt-free. But it's the reasons not asterisk to overpay that usually get ignored. Let's dive into a specific example, just to make sure we are all on the same page. Let's imagine a guy named Gary. Gary is 40 years old. He has a standard repayment mortgage with exactly $100,000 left on the balance and 20 years left on the term. And he just locked in a fixed rate for 2 years at 4.5%. This gives him a monthly payment of $632.65. Now, if Gary decides to overpay his mortgage by just $100 a month, this would actually result in him paying off his entire house 4 whole years earlier. If he bumps that up to $200 a month, he finishes 6 years and 8 months early. Or, if he gets really aggressive with $300 a month, he's done 8 years and 6 months early. But let's stick with $100 as our baseline. The magic of paying off your mortgage early works in 2 ways. First, for every single $100 Gary overpays, he is essentially locking in a guaranteed 4.5% return on his money. Why? Because he is permanently avoiding paying that interest down the line. And second, once that mortgage is finally gone, he will suddenly have $732 every single month, or roughly $8,784 a year of entirely free cash flow, money he can now invest. If he did that, and let's say he achieved a return of about 6% a year, he would end up with around $40,000 invested by the end of that original 20-year period. But what if, instead of overpaying his mortgage, Gary just invested that same $100 a month right now? If he achieved that same 6% return, by the time his mortgage naturally finishes, he would have $46,200 invested. That makes him roughly $6,100 better off than if he had focused on overpaying. If he hits an 8% return, he is $17,200 richer. A 10% return, $32,000 better off. The math itself is simple. As long as Gary makes a higher return on his investments than the interest rate he is paying on his mortgage, he wins. But, as we kind of hinted at earlier, this type of spreadsheet analysis has some serious flaws. On one hand, investment returns are never constant. They bounce around. They can be incredibly volatile. And there is no promise they will actually show up when you need them. But on the flip side, overpaying your mortgage only gives you that guaranteed return for exactly as long as your fixed interest rate lasts. Think about it like this. Imagine if we were running these numbers back in 2008. Rates on a typical 2-year fixed mortgage were hovering around 5.8%. That made overpaying look like a fantastic deal. But by the time you had to renew 2 years later, rates had plummeted down to 3%, which is great for your monthly budget, but it means that all those extra payments you made previously are now saving you significantly less interest going forward. So, it is not just the interest rates of asterisk today you have to think about before throwing extra cash at your mortgage, but what might happen to them tomorrow. Which brings us directly to the first major reason why you might not want to overpay your mortgage. When you shove extra money into your house, it can be extremely difficult to get that cash back out again, especially if you need it in a hurry. You absolutely do not want to find yourself in a scenario where you have been aggressively overpaying your mortgage for years. But then you get sick, lose your job, and suddenly can't even make your basic monthly payment. This is exactly why you should only consider overpaying your mortgage if you already have a solid emergency fund sitting in cash and proper insurance in place. And honestly, very few people actually do. You also need to look at what kind of interest you can earn just by holding cash. Sometimes, standard savings accounts or fixed-rate bonds actually pay more interest than what your mortgage is costing you. And if the interest you are earning offsets the cost of your mortgage, overpaying mathematically makes no sense. Plus, keeping that money in a savings account or a fixed-term deposit usually means you can still access it if a massive emergency hits, even if you have to pay a small penalty. That flexibility is massive if your life suddenly changes or an amazing investment opportunity pops up. You will be so thankful you kept that cash liquid instead of locking it away in bricks and mortar. And when your fixed mortgage rate eventually ends, having a pile of cash gives you leverage. Mortgage rates usually depend on your loan-to-value ratio, or LTV. Basically, the more of your home you actually own, the cheaper your mortgage gets. So, let's say it is time to renew your mortgage. Your house is currently worth $100,000, but you still owe $86,000. That puts you in the 90% LTV bracket, which might give you an interest rate of, say, 4.97%. But if you can magically find just $1,000 in cash to bump your balance down to $85,000, you drop into the next bracket. Suddenly, your rate might drop to 4.64%. That tiny rate drop could save you hundreds of dollars in interest over the next few years. That $1,000 cash injection acts like an investment with a massive, immediate return. Now, sure, if you had been slowly overpaying your mortgage all along, you would have already hit that better bracket. But you would have been doing it blindly, because you only know your true loan-to-value ratio when the bank revalues your house at renewal time. Keeping your cash on hand allows you to be highly tactical, making big financial moves only when you actually have the facts in front of you. The security and flexibility of holding cash is just so incredibly valuable. Even if the interest you earn on your savings is slightly lower than your mortgage rate, that tiny monthly cost might be totally worth the peace of mind. Before we move on to the next point, I want to hear from you. Have you ever dumped a bunch of cash into paying off debt, only to realize later that you desperately needed that money for an emergency? I know I have. Drop a comment below and share your story, because I think it helps everyone realize how common these cash flow traps really are. All right, reason number 2. A lot of folks genuinely prefer the absolute certainty of paying off their house over the stomach-churning uncertainty that comes with investing in the stock market. But here is the harsh reality. You are going to have to start investing at some point. Your house is not going to magically print money for you to buy groceries when you retire. You have to diversify. You have to invest outside of your property. And you might be thinking, that is totally fine, like Gary in our example. Once the mortgage is gone, I'll have all this extra cash to invest. But there are a few glaring problems with waiting that long. First off, you really do not want to reach your 50s or 60s, having absolutely zero experience with the stock market, and suddenly try to manage a massive portfolio. That is a recipe for a financial disaster. Look, everyone makes stupid mistakes when they first start investing. Seriously, everyone. So, isn't it better to make those mistakes when you are young and you are only playing with a few $100s, rather than risking your entire life savings later on? Second, and this is crucial, the hardest part about investing is not picking the right stocks. It's managing your own brain. Nothing, and I mean nothing, can prepare you for the gut punch of watching your hard-earned money drop in value during a market crash. These days, with simple index funds being everywhere, the difference between a wealthy investor and a broke one isn't what they buy. It is how thick their skin is. And you can only develop that thick skin by actually living through it, by experiencing the anxiety of a red portfolio and learning not to panic sell. If you take every spare dollar you have and aggressively hurl it at your mortgage, you are completely missing out on that vital life experience. Yes, maybe you have a retirement account at work that automatically deducts from your paycheck. But honestly, that money is usually so out of sight and out of mind that it doesn't teach you anything about managing risk. You don't have to invest a fortune to learn these lessons, but you need some real skin in the game. The sooner you start, the faster you learn. When you build an investment portfolio, you have to decide how much to put in risky stocks versus safer bonds. Over decades, stocks usually win, but in the short term, they will make you sweat. The longer you invest, the better you handle that stress. If you wait until your mortgage is totally paid off before you start investing, you are going to be a complete novice right when you need to be an expert. You might end up being too terrified to take the risks necessary to actually grow your wealth. Reason number 3, let's talk about taxes. If Gary thinks he can make an 8% return investing, he might still hesitate. A guaranteed return from paying off the house just feels safer. But what if Gary is in a high tax bracket? Instead of overpaying his mortgage by $100 a month, what if he funnels that money straight into his pre-tax retirement account? Because he avoids paying income tax on that money, that $100 out of his pocket might actually turn into $172 landing in his retirement account. Now, earning an 8% return on $172 is vastly superior to earning an 8% return on just $100. Taking advantage of tax breaks is one of the absolute biggest reasons why financial planners push people to invest rather than prepay their mortgages. Now, you could argue that if Gary pays his house off early, he can just dump all his new free cash into his retirement account later. And yes, over 20 years, he might technically invest the same total dollar amount. But he misses out on compounding. If Gary gets that tax relief early and gets it invested early, those investments have years and years to grow and snowball. Plus, there is no guarantee his tax situation will be the same later in life. He might actually get less of a tax break later on, meaning he left thousands of dollars on the table by waiting. If you want to maximize your wealth and potentially retire early, you have to be highly tactical about when you claim these tax advantages. If you blindly throw all your money at your mortgage, you are literally just throwing away free government money. Moving on to reason number 4. Let's rewind to 1997. Back then, The average yearly salary was roughly $18,600, and the average house cost about $67,000. That means a house cost about 3.6 times the average income. Today, average earnings are somewhere around $37,600, but that same average home, it costs nearly $290,000. That ratio has ballooned to 7.7. One of the great things about a standard repayment mortgage is that it acts as a forced savings account. Every single month, you build equity. But because housing has become so outrageously expensive compared to our incomes, just paying your standard monthly mortgage means you are already locking up a massive percentage of your overall wealth in your house. Having the vast majority of your entire net worth tied up in a single physical building, in one specific neighborhood, is incredibly risky. Your property value is entirely dependent on the local economy. If a major employer leaves your town, your house value drops, and you might lose your job at the exact same time. Diversification is the only real shield we have against an unpredictable future. That is why it is so wildly important to invest in different things, across different industries, all over the globe. Don't put all your financial eggs in one brick-and-mortar basket. And finally, reason number 5, inflation. If I promised to pay you $100 a month back in 1997, you would have been thrilled. That was a lot of money. It could buy hundreds of loaves of bread. Today, that same $100 buys less than half of what it used to. Inflation slowly destroys the purchasing power of money, which is terrible if you are trying to buy groceries. But it is fantastic if you owe money. Think about it. If you borrowed $20,000 decades ago, that debt doesn't grow with inflation. It stays exactly at $20,000, but as the years go by, your wages naturally go up because of inflation. What used to feel like a massive monthly payment suddenly feels like pocket change. Inflation destroys the real value of your debt. This is why some wealthy investors actually view long-term, low-interest mortgage debt as an incredible financial tool. They consider it a hedge against inflation. They fully believe that over the span of 30 years, the true weight of their debt will shrink to almost nothing, while the assets they bought with that borrowed money will skyrocket in value. Now, obviously, you need a strong stomach for this. If interest rates spike aggressively, it can be incredibly painful in the short term, but if you look at the big picture over decades, inflation is quietly eating away your mortgage balance for you. If you have a standard mortgage and you are desperate to overpay, just take a step back. Acknowledge the massive helping hand that inflation is giving you behind the scenes. Look, when you choose to invest instead of overpaying your house, you are effectively borrowing money at a fixed cost, for the chance to make a higher return. Yes, history shows the stock market usually wins, but history also shows that most normal people panic, sell at the bottom, and completely miss out on those gains. If you are terrified of risk, or you just don't trust yourself not to panic, paying off your mortgage is a brilliant, safe move. But I know some of you are realizing right now that overpaying might actually be the riskiest move of all. It could leave you cash poor, entirely dependent on a single asset, and miles away from true financial freedom. Even if mortgage rates jump to 10%, some people will still choose to invest, and they have very solid mathematical reasons for doing so. If you want to retire early and make your money work as hard as possible, you have to understand both sides of this coin. Take the time to evaluate your own life, your own tolerance for stress, and make the choice that actually lets you sleep soundly at night.